Here's a quick recap of events so far, just in case you missed parts 1 and 2. My dad moved in with a drunken psychopath. Said psychopath's son was a nice kid who basically turned into the brother I never had. But Psycho interferes with accusations that I tried to drown him. So, about that business they had. The second Dad and Sue quit their jobs, they desperately tried to bring in some cash. Very slowly, and I mean very slowly, they started to bring in some money. It wasn't really much, forcing my dad to stop paying child benefits. This caused a huge tidal wave at home, trying to make out that he was leaving me in the dust for his new family over there. Eventually, though, the money did start coming in. We'd go to theme parks and water parks. It was all a huge cover-up for how much of a time bomb Sue was, though. She'd still have the little episodes, but they were nowhere near as bad as the aforementioned outburst. Dad would give me like 10 pounds and let me loose in a game shop for a bit along with Matt. We were both Nintendo kids, so we got Pokemon, Mario, and Zelda stuff and played co-op whenever we could. Basically, Matt and I were together as one against Sue. I felt like a brother to him, and he looked up to me as one. It was weird at first, but soon it became nicer because I knew he had been desperate for someone like me to come along since Sue savagely cut off the connection between him and his dad. One day, my dad told me that they were moving house, only down the road or something like that. I took it as a fresh start. It was time to just leave the events of that fateful night in that room. The first time I went to the new house, I thought it was quite nice. It was a lot roomier and there was a much larger living room. Definitely an upgrade. I assumed they bought this new house with their money and still didn't pay my child support, which, as I said before, continued to ruffle everyone's feathers at home. I became slightly angrier every time I'd visit, though. My dad had started smoking again. He had stopped right after I was born. He did it to cope with the stress and because Sue was doing it. They'd close the kitchen door and just puff for hours on end. You'd walk in to get a drink and just this cloud of smoke would billow out. I don't really do too well with smoke. It makes my lungs hurt and shit. It's probably a placebo, but still, it caused me discomfort. I'd cover my nose and my mouth with my jumper if he started smoking in the car and the like. Sometimes this annoyed Dad, but I did it for my own good. It wasn't my fault he was giving himself cancer. I regularly argued with him, trying to get him to stop, but in the end I just gave up. They made a spare room for me again, but this time Ross was around a lot more and had practically moved in. Ross randomly got stabbed one time and we had to get up in the middle of the night to go see him in the hospital. Not a very nice area to be in, as you can guess. Matt was around Ross a lot, considering they really are brothers. However, he still loved to take advantage of the fact that I write stories and wanted me to do these interactive stories. You know, like those fighting fantasy books that people used to buy. You see a door, do you open it or keep walking? That type of thing. Because it was all done on the spot, it could change wildly, or I could just change the plot completely in one decision. Matt would even have a little inventory of items and use or keep them. As you can see, he's just a kid. In this environment with a drunken, poor excuse for a mother. She'd randomly tell him to shut the fuck up and the like, to which he would instantly just stop talking and have this terrified look on his face. Poor kid. Anyway, once they all settled into the house nice and tight, the drinking started again. She would go through phases, as Dad and I called them. A couple days of niceness, and then what Dad called the drinking day. After that, just marathons of sleepless nights and binge drinking. She would accumulate empty wine bottles at the side of the sofa. I slept on the longer sofa at like a 90-degree angle to the rest of the room. I would be trying to sleep and she'd still be watching TV when I got up. Matt and I would play downstairs sometimes, the floor is lava and all that stuff, you know, with cushions, etc. Matt was such an innocent kid, and it pained me to see Sue do shit like this. She'd ring into Matt's school and say he was sick. He wasn't. She would proceed to turn him into a butler for the day, bringing her water, food, tablets, etc. Why? Because she was too drunk to get out of bed, that's why. And this kid would just sit watching TV all day, missing his education just to serve his alcoholic mother her water. Okay, I'm writing this in free period in school, but I'll write the rest up later. It gets real good soon.